clouds with isolated showers, lows near 80 tomorrow night. Partly sunny with isolated showers Friday, 89 to 93. Rip current risk will be low today. Helene is formed in the far western Caribbean and will move toward the Florida Peninsula over the next few days. This WTJX local forecast is brought to you by the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency.
WTJX 93.1 Charlotte Amalia, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters. The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back. Good morning. Sorry. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Analyze This here on your NPR station, the U.S. Virgin Islands, WTJX FM, with yours truly, Neville James. The reason why I say is we're back because the music had restarted. The brain is locked in to behave a certain way. We're supposed to have the Vitema director joining us, Darryl Jaschen. Of course, today is the last Wednesday of the month, like they say it up in the Bronx, right? MUNFF, the month, right? But so let me call it with us office real quick so they can let us know what's going on, because we had some showers last night. I saw the lightning, right, around 9-ish. So I knew rain was coming. And I'm afraid that we might have a heat watch advisory or warning for today, because it was kind of warm this morning, around 86 degrees early on. So let me knock that out, find out what's going on, and then hopefully Director Jaschen or someone from Vitema could join us. We've got the weather service on the line. Good morning. Who am I speaking with?
Carlos Anselmi.
Carlos Anselmi, ¿cómo está mi amigo?
Bien, ustedes.
Igual. Everything's good. Caliente en la mañana,
yes,
mi hermano.
It's hot. The low temperatures are not dropping. That's and that's due to the surrounding waters, which are way above normal. So that's what regulate or control the air temperature around the islands.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the low temperatures overnight are not dropping into the normal values for the Virgin Islands and even for Puerto Rico. And that's why the mornings are so hot.
Now, we had some rain last night.
Yes.
What did that do to today's temperature?
So basically,
as it relates to how it impacted the atmosphere.
It refreshed somewhat, not so much because of the surrounding waters, which are the main trigger right now. But the overnight, we have the lows in the low 80s. Even, let me see here, St. Croix, we reached 79. So, drops a little bit more than normal than the previous days, which stay or remain in the 80s. And for St. Croix, the typical value for this time of the year, to give you an idea, the normal value for the low temperature is 76,
mm-hmm.
and the minimum was 79. So as you can see, it's 3 degrees from normal, above normal.
Above normal, yeah.
Yes. So.
Mm-hmm. Let's get a marine advisory for our boaters and our beachgoers before I ask you a couple other questions.
Okay, so in terms of marine conditions, in the Atlantic waters, we are expecting the seas to range between 2 and 4 feet, but in the Caribbean waters, will range between 1 and 3 feet. Then in the Negada Passage, they can see, or they can expect the seas around 3 feet with locally higher values. Then there is a northwesterly swell arriving across the region, and that will increase or that will deteriorate the coastal conditions by this afternoon. And that's why we have a moderate risk of rip current for the northern islands.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will spread into the St. Croix area for tomorrow as the swell change more from the northeast.
Okay.
But it will remain in the same values around 3-4 feet, with locally higher amounts up to 5 feet.
So the for our boaters, it should be an okay day outside of the warmness and the temperature, right?
Could you repeat the question?
For our boaters, right? The folks who have sailboats and all that stuff, and like to get out in the ocean between St. Croix and St. Thomas, because you mentioned the Anegada Passage.
Yes.
It should be all right, except for how warm it is.
Yes, it is. That's right. The conditions look favorable for them. The winds will blow from the east around 10 to 15 knots. So we are expecting easterly winds between 10 and 15 knots with gusts up to 20. And they can expect, but later in the afternoon and even in the evening hours, the proximity of an upper level trough will bring or will promote the formation of thunderstorms. Most of the activity is expected in the Mona Passage, but we can rule out 1 or 2 thunderstorms later in the evening near the Virgin Islands or the Anegada Passage. So you need to be vigilant about that or aware of it.
Okay. Now, the main focus right now is Hurricane Helene,
Yes,
right?
It is.
Yeah, it's a big, powerful hurricane, and Florida is the state that is looking to be hit.
Yes, it is, and the thing is that right now, although it's near the area of Mexico and western Cuba, it's strengthening as it moves, and we are expecting a major hurricane when it gets its closest point in the next 30 to 48 hours in the peninsula of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of how hot are the waters over there in the Gulf of Mexico, which is the fuel that Helen needs to get strong, to strengthen.
So the Gulf of Mexico right now is very, very warm?
Yes.
Okay, so
It's way above normal.
yeah.
This is something unusual for us. Every month we are breaking maximum temperatures in terms of mean temperatures around the globe,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of ocean temperatures.
Okay. I got my Virgin Islands. We've got our Territorial Emergency Management Agency director here in the studio with me, Darryl Jaschen. Any questions you wanted to ask Carlos Anselmi?
Hey, Carlos, good morning, Director Josh. The impact for us is not direct, but it's very indirect. So we have a lot of fuel that comes out of Louisiana, comes down here for, the WAPA.
WAPA, yeah.
So that's our biggest concern right now is we're watching the fuel barges and the ships that are coming out of Louisiana and the impact. And then even the ships that come down here and bring in goods. So why not direct, but it's always an indirect concern we have.
Is that the case for Puerto Rico as well? They look at the Gulf Coast area for fuel to be barged into the Caribbean?
Yes. So
Okay.
we're all in that. The only exception would be of Ocean Point terminals. They have an LNG super tanker log.
Yeah.
So that's basically provides
That's the liquefied.
LNG.
That's the liquefied natural gas, right?
For Puerto Rico.
For
So
Puerto
it's not
Rico.
as urgent for them, but ultimately it is. But that's always the concern. So Carlos, always good to work with you and your updates. And we talk all the time, but we're watching very closely what's going to be happening.
Yes, it is. And good to hear you, Darryl. We are a great communication here with Vitema, especially with Darryl, because we are always trying to provide the best information to all of you. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, and Neville, this is 24/7, so I'm talking to him at 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. The updates, we were always together. Of course, when the hurricane hunters come in, we're always getting updates through them about the hurricane hunters.
I'm glad that you guys communicate with each other on a first name basis. So that's good, Carlos and Darryl. Hey, Carlos, nice talking to you, man.
It's a pleasure.
I'm looking forward to talking with you on Friday. Okay? I'll call you on Friday to get a weekend update.
Vale.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You got it good. That's Carlos Anselmi from the Water Service down there in San Juan. So, good morning, boss. Good to see you.
Hey, good
How
morning.
you doing?
Welcome to everybody.
No, just because the storm isn't affecting us does not mean that we should not be cognizant and paying attention to what's taking place up there. Because, at the end of the day, it's all one treasury, isn't it?
Very much so. And again, the airplanes coming in and going out, the delays and for travelers.
And you brought up a good point.
Yeah.
Where it's like what hit us with Ernesto. We may have, the storm may have come in, rain came and all that stuff, and we didn't see any poles or lines down heavy. So we're thinking, well, we should be back to normal, but we didn't know that they had gotten flooded out down at Wapa.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, it was tough.
So you bring up a good point there, where we're thinking of, well, the storm is going to hit, western, the northern Panhandle.
Yep.
Right. But we're not thinking, wait a minute, it could be in the path of the commodities that our authority needs, for us to exist. So we have to be concerned because. Let's face it, we don't manufacture what we need, and it has to get here some way.
Yeah, the other piece, you talk about Schneider, Regional Medical Center Hospital, and Winnetley Hospital, they do evacuations all the time, just routine for patients. They have to go stateside. So this will have an impact upon medical evacuation and doctors and the time and critical. So all of it is timing for this, and can you go to the left, can you go to the right around the storm? But this will have a huge impact upon just, patient care and movement.
No, just to let the public know, it is not a hurricane yet. It's still Tropical Storm Helene, but the prospects are not good because the development, the potential for development is high.
Yeah, it's that rapid intensification we talk about. And again, looking at it this morning, Category 3 on Thursday morning is just approaching that panhandle, that bend. And that's going to be a huge impact. And, of course, if it speeds up and goes fast, we love it. But if it's going to go slow, it's even worse. And the amount of rain that's going to come down. And, of course, they have a lot of that surge along the shoreline, which is a huge, huge impact for the folks who live on the shoreline down there.
I'm curious as to, why, these storms, they take on a life of their own.
Each one does.
Yeah,
You can't say, well, it was like it was before. Each one's going to be different. Even the models this morning, they have a couple of them still going to the left. Okay.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's the latest forecast. Has it going pretty much northeast, right, for a little bit. The angle is not in that case, it's not a 45-degree angle. It's more, it's more on the 90 side than on the 0 side, right? So right now it's at the Yucatan, right in the corner.
Right, coming through,
right, and it's going to get into the Gulf. That's the fuel that Carlos was talking about because of the warm waters. And then it looks like the Panhandle area looking like a direct hit.
Yeah, very much so, because you have those stirring conditions depending on high pressure, low pressure cells that will impact the direction it actually goes to. But again, Mother Nature, she always will take control. And we can predict all we want to. Hurricane hunters, again, will be out there providing great information for accurate information. But, the more defined it becomes, the better projection we're going to get for it. So if it stays like it is now, you still have a lot of uncertainty, like we have with Nersto here. Nersto happened the same thing for us. But when it gets up to that Cat 2, 3 major hurricane, the forecasts are really right on track.
And then, the two things that you don't want are projected to happen: rapid intensification, and then they say it's going to grow in size. That's the next thing that people tend to take for granted, right? Where a lot of these storms, some of these storms are not that big, but this one it looks like it's once it gets into the Gulf, it's going to expand.
So that storm surge, we don't have as much
Storm
down
surge,
here, but you're
yeah.
talking 10 feet, 12 feet storm surge. And that's a lot of storm surge. And this area got hit, already this year, in that area. So it's a big concern.
Yeah. Burial, right? Burial, right?
Yeah, when it came up there. So again, it's been a tough year for Florida. Again, the good news, my counterparts up there, both county-wise, state-wise, city-wise, are very well prepared for this. And everybody, the evacuations they have set up, and of course they can drive away. We definitely down here. But it's they know it's coming. The information is going to go out. Sometimes they have mandatory evacuations. They go up by zones, if you will. But it's a whole preparation, vigilance. They're getting ready for this. And of course, schools in place. So all these things are impacting decision makers at this time.
And then when it hits land, unlike normal storms, it's going to bend to the left. It's going to head west.
A little bit.
A little bit west.
Not
direct west.
Right.
But it'll work its way north, and it'll be more like northwest.
Yeah. So all that when you get up in the mountains there, inland, you can have a lot more flooding. So again, just because you're in the coast does not mean you're going to be, hit. But then inland also is going to has a tremendous rains and the floods. So you're going to see a lot of impact. So, staying alert, staying aware, having your kits, being able to evacuate your friends, your neighbors, your pets, everybody. This is a real time to be prepared.
So these are the cities that if you have family in these areas, these are the potential Cyclone 9, which will be Tropical Storm Hurricane Helene, Key West, Miami, Melbourne, Tampa Bay, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and Charleston. Right? I've never heard of a Charleston, Florida. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I don't know. Let me see which Charleston they're talking about, because I know of Charleston, South Carolina. I don't know about Charleston. Yeah, that's okay. Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, that's what they're looking at, right? There's local info, but the impact really is going to be on the western side of Florida. Okay, so the Miami, Melbourne part, not so much, right? But the storm surge that you just heard Director Jaschen talking about, right? For the Tampa Bay area, right? Key West, all that stuff. We got to be concerned about that, right? But the Panhandle, in particular, Tallahassee. Right, that area, that Big Bend area of northern Florida, right? So, if you got children going to FAMU, students, right? FAMU, Florida State, right? They're up there in Tallahassee. Tell them to prepare as much as possible, right? Maximum sustained winds right now, right? And this is a update from about 18 minutes ago, right? 70 miles per hour, right? The minimum pressure is 979 millibars mercury. All right, now we're moving northwest at 9 miles per hour, okay? Now there's another system out in the Atlantic that we were told about.
Well, I'll use the word a wave.
Yeah, it's a wave.
Area of interest for it. Don't get us going yet.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at it. It's going to develop, but it's not going to get to the Caribbean, to the Eastern Caribbean islands.
Well, don't rule it out yet. We're going to watch it.
I'm talking it not getting here into existence. Okay, it hasn't really fully developed yet, but the long term forecast has it staying out in the Atlantic, and then before it gets to us, it should turn to the north. We don't know, right? You don't take anything for granted, like the director just said. Yeah, but that's the long term forecast for right now. But that's still days away, if anything. We'll take a break. Come back. We'll get to what education the Vitema director has for us this morning as we head towards the latter parts of the hurricane season. At the end of September, we'll have 2 more months, which means 4 months have already gone. And we'll talk some more with respect to preparation, what have you. We'll be back right after this. And we're back here on Analyze This. It's the last Wednesday of the month, so that means Vitema running things in the early hour of our show. Good morning, Director Jaschen. Glad to have you here.
Good morning, Neville. Good morning, everybody.
Put on the microphone there for the director. So, how's Vitema?
Vitema is doing great. I have more meetings, more organization meetings going on, even the local communities involved with doing things. We are about the best prepared I've ever seen us. It's great. Staffing is fantastic. The support from the governor, lieutenant governor, the commissioners, everybody's been really working well together. At the height of hurricane season, we had our emergency management council meeting last week. Governor was there. You know, this is very serious, and we learned some lessons from our nurse story we talked about last time I was here. But we're not letting our guard down. We're preparing still, working with WAPA also and trying to get some transformers back in. They've ordered more transformers to recover to get back for the next event. It may come, just be prepared also. Mm-hmm. So it's fantastic what's happening right now. I have an exercise I'm going to go to this morning after I leave here down to Ocean Port Terminals. We're doing a maritime exercise. So all these things we're doing in preparation, not just for hurricanes, but we also have an exercise coming up in October 17th called the Great Shakeout. We've done it every single year. It's on earthquakes, and we'll be activating our EOCs, and community can get involved with drop, cover, and hold on for that 30 seconds, and then, you know, look at what you're doing, evacuate your friends, your family, you know, the schools will be involved with this. So a lot of things are happening, not just hurricanes, but that's the number one right now. The other item last night, I got a chance to be part of the Governor's Association Homeland Security. I met with online for about an hour with all the other island territories, which was great to have that conversation about similar challenges our governors have. And again, typhoons versus hurricanes, cybersecurity is a huge threat right now for all of us. So working together, not just in the territory, but between the territories and the governors' associations are fantastic.
How Graciela doing? I haven't spoken to her in years, man. What's up with that? Tell Graciela, you know, she called me to talk about the
hazard mitigation resilience
yeah,
plan.
Man. Yeah.
We got that. We got that adopted. You know, 1 July, the governor signed off on that. FEMA signed off on that. That was basically, it's a 5-year plan. Thanks to University of Virgin Islands, Dr. Greg Winnell and Dr.
I finally met him.
I
finally met him about a couple of months ago. He was at the RT Park.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of that, across the way from RT Park is the Simulation Center.
Simulation Center, yeah.
So last Friday we had the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, hosted a great workshop, if you will, with seniors coming in. We have myself, Fire, EMS briefed, Red Cross briefed, and Human Services briefed about what we can do together to support each other. And we talked about patient movement evacuation. We talked about fire safety, smoke alarm safety. We talked about working together, how we get together to support each other. It's just a great opportunity. And the president, Troy Schuster was there, of course, and then Jackie Heidegger is the state president, so she was there. So a great opportunity.
Yeah, she came here and she promoted the event, so it went well.
Oh, it went outstanding. Standing room only. Great food for everybody. Great questions. So it wasn't just us talking. It was good two-way dialogue, and we talked about having a good conversation. So we just did it on St. Croix, of course. We do on St. Croix. I do on St. Thomas. So that's something that's going to be in their playbook for the future to do. But great turnout, and I really appreciate everybody who came and participated, and a great group to work with.
That's good. Now, getting back to Helene, right? This time of year is, I want to make sure I speak properly. September and October are our warmest months of the year, right?
Here in the territory.
Right? Typically on the mainland, summertime, 4th of July to Labor Day, right? That's the thinking. And as a result, warm weather is not good when it comes to systems working through the region, right? Because you don't want the waters to be, ridiculously warm. And you heard Carlos use the term. He literally just said the fuel, right? It works as a fuel for development, right? We look at the hurricane calendar. It starts typically, by by definition, June 1 to November 30th. But we know we got a tropical weather outlook that lets us know what's going on in the middle of May. However, we've had some rough storms in the last 2 months of what is the hurricane season, right? We've had Omar, which was a October 2008, and then we had Lenny, which was November 1999. So I want us to use a little bit of our time to continue to encourage the public to be aware. Do not assume that because the September windows, which have created significant damage for us over the years, beginning with Hugo and most recently with Irma Maria and Marilyn in 1995, just because we look like we're going to get to October without a hit subsequent to Ernesto, that we should let our guard down.
Well, I would say go back to the beginning of the year and what happened with Beryl.
Yeah,
Beryl was done
the beginning of the hurricane season.
It was even before then. So
Yeah.
the forecasters they talk like we don't know what's happening. This climate change is real. We've really got to stay vigilant. And I think the beauty behind hurricanes, if anything, is we get advance notice. So if you listen to the forecasters, you look at the impact to our areas. You will get a hurricane, warning going out. 36 hours, and watch will come even before that, so you have time to prepare. So, but you got to always be vigilant this time of year. So, listening to your station, listening to what's happening on other stations are very, very important that we stay aware of our surroundings and not let our guard down. Again, once the hurricane shutters go up in my house, I usually stay up until I feel things are safe. And it takes a while to take them up or down. But your kits, we talk about don't sneak into those hurricane survival kits at this point and say, oh, everything's going to be good. Still get that cash available for you. Because we saw what happened in a little tropical storm. But if you're on St. Thomas or St. John, it was like, no, that was not a little tropical storm. There was some strong winds with that and some heavy rains. But you're exactly right. We have history that says we can be a good concern. The other part, I would say, if you look at Lenny, we use the term wrong way Lenny. And Omar.
Way, yes.
So while right now we're looking always out to the east, later in the season we have to look to the east and to the west, because the storms Lenny and Omar came from the west. So those are things we look at also.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Lenny actually came out of that Gulf area, right, and worked its way in this direction. Omar was more a south to north type of thing from South America, and worked its way through St. Croix, mostly more into St. John and St. Thomas.
Yeah, I watched Omar because I was in the National Guard at the time as the operations officer, and it just sat south of Puerto Rico for about 2 days, and all of a sudden that pressure dropped, which is a strong indicator, and you started seeing it move very, very slowly towards St. Croix at like 2 miles an hour. So again, we had time, but then again, a 2 mile an hour storm is not a good event, no matter what size it is, because it's going to take a while to go through. But then it clipped the east end of St. Croix, and a lot of telephone poles went down. You remember that, and then it went up towards St. Thomas and St. John.
And then in September of '98, we had George, right? But that was let me see. I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at the timeline here. That's George with an S. Some people say Georges, but it's really a French pronunciation there. Trying to figure out the timeline of when it hit the Virgin Islands. Because let me see. Bam.
I think that was the same year Maryland. Was it 95?
No, that was 98. That was
98.
98. Yeah. The extensive U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico in particular got hit. Okay, the meteorological history. Here we go. It started as a tropical depression, a tropical wave, then a depression. Hit Guadeloupe. And that's the one island that we try to not hear getting hit, Guadeloupe, because historically when Guadeloupe gets hit, St. Croix, right, has always been impacted as well. So Category 3, when it made landfall directly on Antigua, 3 hours later in St. Kitts, and then Fajardo. So we got that would be the eastern part of the storm, all right? That's the next thing too, right? When we hear the updates, folks tend to be fixated on looking at the coordinates, the center of circulation, what have you. But a lot of the times, it's actually one side of the storm or the other, if not both, depending on how it's traveling, that you really got to be focused on, because you could have heavy convections in a quadrant, whether it be the northeast quadrant, southeast quadrant, because it typically moves from east to west.
Right, and the winds, they will, in that northeast quadrant, they'll go out much further. If the tropical storm force winds and hurricane force, they may go out like 100 miles, whereas in the southwest, it may be only 50 miles. So you're definitely an impact upon that. But these storms, they change direction, they change intensity, everything changes. Like I said, each one's unique. So, it shouldn't not change our preparation, should not change our vigilance, should not change anything that we're doing. But just, the updates that we'll get from National Weather Service will tell how fast and how far it's going to go and the time frame it's going to go through. So all that information, the technology is much, much better. I always do the shout out for the hurricane hunters, because when they come here, they can go out, a couple hours out, so we'll be able to see actually what's going to come to us and give us about a 18% more accurate information.
Now we spoke about the rapid intensification for Helene once it leaves the Yucatan Peninsula and gets into the water. So I'm looking at George and just reading its history, right? It said on September 21st, after weakening considerably, right? Category 3 Georges made landfall directly on Antigua and 3 hours later in St. Kitts. Though its 175-mile wide tropical storm force, right? Wind field affected all the Leeward Islands. So that's what we were talking about a little earlier, right? The size of the storms is another dynamic that you can't ignore. It said after weakening to a Category 2, right? Over the Caribbean, upper level shear decreased, and George strengthened a bit before making landfall near Fajardo, Puerto Rico, as a 115-mile-per-hour Category 3 hurricane. So we had weakening and then strengthening and then weakening and then strengthening again early in the morning, and then it hits the mountainous terrain in the middle of the Puerto Rico. A lot of mountains, right? Mm-hmm. And then Mona Passage, it again re-intensified to hit eastern Dominican Republic with winds of 120 miles an hour on September 22nd. And like in Puerto Rico, George was greatly weakened by the mountainous terrain after crossing the Windward Passage. Then Guantanamo Bay, right? Straits of Florida, Key West, Biloxi, right? And then actually move more eastward back to the Florida Panhandle. Right. So this is an ideal example of how there is no storm movement is not linear. It does what it wants to do depending on what the atmosphere is all about.
Great point. The fact that we can sit back now and talk about what it did is great. But remember, during that time frame, we had no idea necessarily where it was going to go. The technology wasn't as good as it is today. So you could be thinking, oh, it's going to be going over Puerto Rico, and all of a sudden the Tortola gets hit. So again, the variables are there, and the uncertainty is there. And the National Hurricane Center, they're getting better and better each year with that prediction and the degree of variation from that. So that's the beauty we have today. But still, anything can happen. We learned our lessons here back in Dorian days, and that was rough. I mean, it's being in a new cabinet. We're like, what? We're only going to worry about St. Croix, and all of a sudden St. Thomas is getting hit. Like, no.
Well, it became a hurricane right off of the western part of St. Thomas.
Yeah, well, actually right across the water, right there in Brewers Bay, and then it went up towards Bahamas, and it sat there for 2 days, which is terrible. We've learned now in the territories, the government, we prepare all islands the same. So even though, it's all nice and blue in St. Thomas, and like, no, Mother Nature is going to have her vote. And we want, especially the tropical storms and the Cat 1s, they're so uncertain, their predictions.
Yeah. They might not be as intense because the development, hasn't reached its maximum potential. But the uncertainty, with that window, that between 35 and 70 miles an hour, right? And we experienced that with Ernesto, because we were told, right? It's a tropical storm, so we're thinking, well, we get some rain, blah, blah, blah. And then we found out that, the howling that we heard during the night, that didn't sound like tropical storm howling. That sounded like hurricane howling.
Yeah, so it really, the challenge for us and, the Vitema working with other agencies, like I'll pick on shelters, for example. It takes us a long time relatively to set up shelters, and we need to get access to the location, which is an education side quite a bit. 24 hours before the storm hits, we want to set that up. But as these are still rumbling around under as potential this and potential that, and that's not really the conditions. But if it's going to be forecasted to intensify, then we have to open those shelters up. And that was one of the challenges we ran in Ernesto, was we didn't have the conditions projected for that. Then if you wait too long, and all of a sudden it goes into a Cat 1, Cat 2, rightfully so, people are saying, look, I got to find a place to shelter. So we're really going to work on getting those shelters open earlier, with governor's approval, of course. But that's a key thing for me to focus on all the agencies, with the lead agency being Human Services, supported by the Red Cross.
We were fortunate in 2020 to not have any storms come through
Yeah.
the territory, because you had stated, you came on the show, I remember you said, and there will not be any congregate sheltering simply because the impact of the pandemic, you know what I'm saying? And that's the reality on the ground. We couldn't run that risk.
Yeah, and we put the conditions in fairly quickly because it was all unknown. But working with the Department of Health, the screening, having the testing kits, having isolation, we learned a lot. So by the time the next year came up, we had a lot better. Even trying to work the sandbags that first year was rough because we had no idea if you get sharing shovels, sharing stuff, being together. Just getting sandbags was not a healthy thing. Let's put it that way.
Now you mentioned shelter, and I wanted to know: are you a part of what's going to take place in St. John with the new school? Because the proponents of the new school for St. John, one of the things they like to include in their justification for supporting it, which is perfectly fine, is that it's not just going to be a new school in St. John that they deserve, but it's also going to serve as a shelter.
The term we use in FEMA language is called a safe room.
Okay.
So a lot of the schools being built in justification and places in the community are becoming what they call have safe room capacity in them. And then it is for getting through storms, and definitely for St. John, we need to have that set up. That's all under the Office of Disaster Recovery. We're working that very closely with them, and we would love to have those set up to have even better options for us for the community. But as we know, it's going to take a little while before we get there. But each year we go through, we look at all the potential locations, both territory-wise, owned, managed, private sector owned, managed. We work together and coming up with the best options for us. But the best option ultimately is to be in a safe environment with friends, family, neighbors, those people who know you and can take care of you.
You got it. We're talking with Vitema Director Darryl Jaschen, West Point graduate here on Analyze This. The Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency has a slot slated on this show on the last Wednesday of every month. We'll take a break and be back right after this. And we're back here on Analyze This. We're talking with Vitema Director Darryl Jaschen. Anything going on? Any big news coming out of Vitema? Anything you got planned that the community is going to be involved in outside of managing the hurricane window?
I would say, Neville, this is National Preparedness Month. So not just hurricanes, but Preparedness Month. And we have some things that are going on, and we have some competitions going on for school-aged children. So parents, please listen up if you're a teacher. The first thing we're talking about is, starting a conversation. It's one thing to talk about personally what you're doing, but, we've all been through storms. We've been through disasters. But let's share those lessons learned. Let's figure out how we can be better prepared, how we can support each other on this. So it may not be the best time, but find time to talk, like the dinner table time frame, about preparedness kit, and always talk about developing a first aid kit for your home and getting your children involved with developing a first aid kit. It's a great opportunity to do. In education, looking at the expiration dates on Neosporin, for example, and other things is a great opportunity to talk about preparedness. And we also have, CERT, which is a community emergency response team. Education coming up in January that will get individuals trained on how to support their community, support the first responders to be out and about, which is really, really good. But part of this outreach for this week, this month, for National Preparedness Month, which is going to end obviously this week, we have, for 7th and 8th graders, they're doing preparedness skits. They're actually doing skits about how to start a conversation.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to getting input from them. And if you're between, 4th and 6th graders, we're looking at doing a comic strip about preparedness. So coming up with some ideas and what you think from your perspective, what you can do to prepare. And for the youngsters from K to 3, it's a 4-panel comic strip about, we have a sea turtle called Alfred, who basically talks about preparedness and about what we can do together. It's a great way for us to really stay involved and to get the youth involved. And the youth educate their parents many times about what's going on. And schools are very much involved with the preparation for mentioned the great shakeout's going to happen October 17th. So a lot is happening for that. But stay tuned. Facebook pages we have coming up and involvement with the schools. A lot of outreach to the community. It's very important we stay involved with each other, no matter if you're in St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, or even Water Island, that we have those conversations.
Okay, I know Water Island, by the way. I've never been there. But, we were working on a project because they wanted to do because back in the day, Water Island used to have this hotel that everybody liked to go to. Mainland folks from St. Thomas would hop on the ferry or whatever, go over there. And they wanted to redevelop it about 10 years ago. And I was very much in support of that because part of that development had for what do you call it, a helipad?
Okay.
That's how you pronounce it?
Helipad.
A helipad,
yeah.
Right? So where a lot of folks that they wanted to entertain there, they want them to play golf at Carambola because Mahogany Run right now struggling, you know what I'm saying? And you can't really compare Mahogany Run with Carambola anyway. Mahogany Run at its best, it just can't really pull up, like we just said, with Carambola. So it was in effect a true territorial economic development program or project.
Yep.
Right. So I'm curious. One of my friends who first Turnbull, he does work over there as well. What's it like over there? Because I know Colette Monroe is Mrs. Water Island, Miss Water Island. You know what I'm saying? Well, so I gotta figure out a way to get over there.
Yeah, the Tickles Dockside Pub, they have a boat that goes out of
there. It's a boat community island, right?
Yeah,
for the most part.
It's like $5 each way.
Yeah,
each way around trip. I can't remember, but I think it's $5 each way. But it leaves like every hour on the hour, right at there at the marina at Havenside. Not Havenside, but Havenside. No, at where Tickles is over on St. Thomas. But it's like a 10-minute boat ride to get there. But first thing is all golf carts. It's like the retirement community back in Florida. Like, where are all these golf carts?
Yeah.
So they have some little roads there. I mean, unfortunately, 2 of them were damaged during a Nursto, and again, the washout and the run out, so to get those repaired. There is a tsunami siren on Water Island, which is by design. We have a great honeymoon beach there. There is a community center / fire brigade because we've had fire problems on Water Island.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get together and we sort of use that location for a post-event shelter and distribution point. A lot of the individuals who live aboard boats for sheltering after the storm, if they lost their boats, will come to Water Island. They did after Irma Maria. But it's a very nice community there. A lot of folks during hurricane season will be off island. Don't live there year round.
Yeah.
But it's a nice place and great people to work with. I've been there about 5 or 6 times. The administrator for St. Thomas covers down also on
Water Island. Yeah.
So they get together and activities go on. But Honeymoon Beach, Colette talks about a story after Remembria came through to try to get Honeymoon Beach opened by the cruise ships coming up for the cruise ship season, and how the community came together to really get going on that beach and get it open. So when the cruise lines came in, passengers could come in and enjoy Honeymoon Beach from a post-Irma Maria standpoint and not realize that he had gone through a Cat 5 hurricane. So it was a lot of work they put on, but they're great individuals to work with.
Mm-hmm. Now, a couple of comments here with respect to that. Well, first, there's a question. He said, good morning. Now, when you started the show, Carlos mentioned we are now 3 degrees higher than normal. Does the territory have a plan to address climate change? If not, are there plans to develop one?
Yeah, a great question. Commissioner Tita Encarnacion, Department of Health Commissioner, she already has developed a climate change plan. And part of that climate change plan is really looking at how it impacts each of us territory-wise and setting up that. Governor Bryan and Chief of Staff Williams are very much focused on developing cooling centers for the heat that we're having right now. And we're working on developing those today. I'd say right now, if we had to, we could open a couple of them up. But once you open them up, it's really just for cooling. So they're not shelters for cooling. That's the main thing we're looking at right now. There's the states have developed other plans. We're developing some plans supporting the states. So it's definitely in our development piece of that. We have not exercised against that yet. And I always talk about having a plan is great. Unless you exercise and socialize that within agencies in the community, you won't know what to do. But definitely, the Department of Health has always been leading a lot of these activities, from COVID to other vectors that are out there with different things that can hurt us. But definitely, she's taken the lead on that for the climate plan.
Okay, good. Another one of my listeners said that one of the hurricanes had messed up Water Island, the hotel. I don't know which one it was. It might have been Hugo. It might have been Maryland. I don't know. But that was it. You say go by Crown Bay, by Tickles.
Thank you, Crown Bay. Yes,
Crown Bay
thank you.
Tickles,
Crown Bay Tickles.
You're my audience,
yeah,
man.
They got it.
My audience got it going on, man.
Crown Bay Marine,
Crown Bay
exactly.
Tickles, so we're good with that. Now we got heat advisory today. This morning, right? 86 degrees at 7:30, 7:35.
Yeah, this is real.
I mean, which is cool with me because I could lose the weight and keep my figure nice. You know what I'm saying? But but this is. I mean, it gets warm real early.
And stays
in the morning.
Yeah,
and it stays
it's
warm.
at 10 to 5, so you really have to rethink, and especially if you're like an organizer of an event, like let's say an outdoor event, soccer for the kids.
Yeah.
You really got to think through, the breaks you have to have, the water, watching each other, knowing the symptoms. Yeah, that worries me quite a bit. We are acclimated, supposedly, but being out there, you've really got to consciously take breaks and support each other. And watching, the gentlemen and ladies who are doing the construction work, when doing asphalt on the road, that is hard work. But I worry about seniors, the youth, again, the cars, pets, everything we have going on. You can't just, I'm going to go out. Even going to the beach right now, you've got to be very, very careful. And like I said on the press conference, beer is not something, or cruising rum is not something you want to be taking to keep yourself hydrated. You want to have energy drinks. You want to have water primarily. That's how you want to stay hydrated, because your body, it'll be too late for you, unfortunately. So you got to basically take that break. If you're thirsty, it is too late. Drink before you get thirsty. Again, watch each other and stay in shaded areas, wear light-colored clothing. All those things make a difference right now if you're out and about. But yeah, you got to try to get through this together. And it's going to go on for a while. Like you said, September, October are our hottest months.
I had the WAPA CEO on last week. We had a good conversation, call night, and he mentioned something that you spoke about with respect to Ocean Point, which is the LNG, right? And of course, WAPA pretty much consumes everything that we think about, talk about, impacts cost of living, and all that stuff. But we have that terminal, right, down there. That's what. That's the Hess side or the Martin Marietta side, or it's kind of in between.
Well, it used to all be Avenza had all of it, and then they broke it into two components. The storage site, which is Ocean Point Terminals, they had the LNG.
That's the LNG,
liquid natural gas, which is really for Puerto Rico and some other islands. They have like a large, they call it a gas log ship that basically the smaller ships can come in and take it to other places that have generation. We don't use LNG.
Yeah.
We use the LPG.
Yeah.
Which comes out of Louisiana.
But the reason why he brought that up was we have some diversification potential going forward. Now, that's not a topic for you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a Vitema guy and all that stuff. But as someone who lives here, wants the best for us as a society, as a community, diversification and is always a good thing in principle, provided that you have the resources to maintain your infrastructure.
Right, and the solar generation we have going on right now that's going to take about 10 megawatts for each district is great. So I think diversification is definitely there. Of course, it takes time and technology. Are you an early adopter? Are you a follower? Where do you fall in that continuum? And the risk that you put yourself, your business at. But yeah, you're right. I'm the Vitema guy, not the one guy.
No, but you are responsible for the territorial emergency management, right? And that means that anything that's constructed in the territory, your agency should be aware of it as it relates to, we just got to be very straightforward here. Sometimes bad things happen, right? And you shouldn't have an idea when we're talking about large infrastructure development, investment, what have you. How do you go about mitigating that negative potential in the event that it happens? Yeah,
Vitema, and then if we're overwhelmed, FEMA comes in and help out and assist. So a lot of this has to do with the consequence. Like when we had the sargassum that hit us a couple of years ago, that was the first time I think even FEMA had, what is this all about? So it wasn't so much for us as Vitema and FEMA to figure this out. We had a federal declaration because of this. It was the consequences of not being able to have water on the island we had to figure out. So we worked. We did not know the lesson learned from that whole event was we have a great private sector here that has a tremendous supply chain to fresh water, drinkable, potable water. So when we did have the water quality issue on St. Croix, we reached to the private sector and we had the vouchers go out, and it was a great solution. FEMA even said, like, oh my gosh, we've never seen this happen before. It wasn't National Guard soldiers delivering water bottles. It was you getting coupons and taking the coupons to the private sector. And, of course, the territorial providing the fees for that.
And that requires your agency having relationships with EPA, right? DPNR.
Oh, yes.
All these critical agencies that we tend to take for granted until we're going through crisis because of a storm and all that stuff.
Right. And even last year, Department of Agriculture, we had the drought last year. We had for the first time we had like a condition 4 drought for St. Croix, St. Thomas, and Department of Agriculture Commissioner and I got involved talking to the I think it was Department of Agriculture, USDA, about funding and diversification to help us out for farmers who had impact upon livestock or their crops. It was significant. So those areas I'd never really involved before, but now because it impacts the community and health-wise, emergency-wise, we were involved with those discussions.
One of the indicators as to where we are in terms of greenness in the territory, when you're driving, when you leave here in Richmond and you're heading towards Golden Rock, you have there's parts of the drive where you can see, the condominiums over there in Princess St. Croix. It used to be a hotel, St. Croix by the Sea.
Yes.
Right? And that area, there's a grassy area up there, right? And I looked at it the other day and said, oh my gosh, that's lime green. And there was a long time where that was a brown patch. That would let us know that we need rain in the territory. Yep. And it's green now. So there's certain areas that you can look at to let you know, we're okay as it relates to the ground being saturated and all that.
Yep, exactly. Very much. I flew in from St. Thomas on Monday afternoon. And I the whole island looked beautiful green.
Yeah, man. Yeah, a lush green, and these are the indicators and the little things that we're looking for. Director, it's always a pleasure to have you here in the studio. I'm sure you're keeping an eye on what's taking place with Helene, just from a humanitarian standpoint, right? And then always keeping an eye out to the east of us in the Atlantic, because you never know what could happen. I see 2 areas of disturbance that they're looking at. They're still some ways away, but we're going to keep an eye on it. Thank you for spending the last Wednesday of the month with me as you normally do. Next month, we're going to do it on the first Wednesday in November because I'm going to be out of the territory.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not going to be here on the 30th. So we're going to do it on the 6th.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, you have Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah. So,
So
well, Thanksgiving means that it's the end of the hurricane season. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
And that's the 28th of it. That's the 28th this year.
Yeah.
So,
But right now, everybody be vigilant. Don't let your guard down. Like the governor said the other day at the EMC meeting, keep those lucky socks on. right now, hurricane season. We get through this together.
Yeah,
so thank you so much, Neville, for joining you in the community.
That's Director Darryl Jaschen from the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency. We're going to take a break. I think we should be talking with the Casino Control Commission because this is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. So we'll take a break. Be back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters. The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back here and Analyze This. Some programming notes for tonight before we get with the Casino Control Commission. Big shots here in the studio. We got the PBS NewsHour from 7 to 8 p.m. This is a primetime coverage tonight on Channel 12. We got Big Cats 24/7. Follow along as I fight with intruders. Leave the lion pride vulnerable. That's from 8 to 9. Then we got Nova from 9 to 10, right? Join scientists as they grab light from across the universe to prove quantum entanglement is real. Okay, that's on Nova from 9 to 10. And Secrets of the Dead, right? Meet a couple who decorate their home with T-Rex skeletons. Wow. I want to see interesting. That's from 10 to 11. And then I'm Pouring Company from 11 to midnight. Okay, so we got the News Hour at 7, Big Cats 24/7 at 8, Nova at 9, Secrets of the Dead at 10, and I'm Pouring and Company at 11. I want to thank Darryl Jaschen from the Territorial Emergency Management Agency for joining us in hour number 1. Now we're going to move to the Casino Control Commission, and we got here in the studio Marvin Pickering. Morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How about you?
I good. You're the chairman, sir?
Yes, I am. Chairman and CEO.
You want to introduce your vice chair?
I'll let her speak for herself.
Good morning.
Madam Vice Chair, how are you?
I'm well, sir. And yourself?
I'm doing well. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, Carolyn Hermon Purcell, Vice Chair of the Casino Control Commission.
Okay, good. And we got one more Casino Control Commission member?
Yes, we do.
Who that?
Luther Renee, Commissioner,
The former senator?
former Senator.
Luther Renee. So, fully complimented?
Full compliment, sir.
Okay, good. The board was originally 5 and it got reduced to 3?
I thought at one point it was 7.
Oh, it was 7?
Yeah, it was 7.
Okay.
Went down to 5.
And then we're down to 5 and now it's down to 3. How's the Casino Control Commission?
Oh, as my old boss used to say, alive and kicking. You know, we have made considerable progress. You know, since we've gotten a full complement of commissioners. You know, so we're making some steady improvements as we go along. You know, and we're proud of our achievements thus far, and just moving the process along.
How many licenses? I'm gonna try to phrase this question correctly. What's the maximum amount of licenses the Casino Control Commission go issue if we were fully complemented with the requisite hotels based on the tiers?
Oh wow, man! You need you asked me a difficult question there.
I know early on it was about 7.
Yeah.
When the law was passed in the mid '90s, the number was 7 or thereabouts. I think I had a tier with 4, a tier with 2, then a grand tier with 1. Clearly, clearly over time, 30 years later thereabouts, we come to realize that what we had envisioned as a territory ain't pan out. So, has there been adjustments? I know right now we got the DV and we got the Caravel, right?
Yes.
And then there's a license for the racetrack. If that comes to fruition, what else do we have? If people had money and said, well, it's time to invest in St. Croix and coming down, how many more licenses do we have?
There's a certain, as you mentioned, certain number of tiers. You know, you have the tier 1, which is I think up to 1,500 room hotel. Then you come down to the 2 and 3, and now you just mentioned Caravel. Caravel is 4. The class 4. You know, there's a limit of 2, 1 in each town. And I cannot recall the exact numbers for the other two tiers, except tier 1 would be 1, but I think it's 2 each for 2 and 3.
Okay, good. So, Madam Vice Chair, how are you?
I'm well.
So let me go over the law so the public will have an understanding of what casino gaming is all about before we get to problem gambling. Casino gaming is, I'll use the right word here, was passed in 1995 with the Resort Casino Control Act. And casinos are eligible territory-wide, but is only zoned for St. Croix. That's the right termination. Pull the microphone a little closer there. If you would explain that distinction for those who listen, because we're one Virgin Island, so whenever we pass a law, it's applicable to the entire territory. But in this case, an activity has to be zoned for a particular area or a particular island.
And the chair can weigh in also, but the law in the enabling legislation in his whereas closet, it specifically said the casinos industry was to be an economic driver for St. Croix. The legislature took the pains to go through and say, well, St. Thomas is having the cruise ships and they have the hotels. But after the hurricanes, we see this need to try to bolster the economy of St. Croix. So we're going to introduce casinos, but limit them to the island district of St. Croix.
And hotel development
And it was
what was the premise for allowing casino gaming to exist on St. Croix?
correct, because you could only have you must have a hotel to have a casino.
To be eligible to have a casino license.
It was a casino hotel. That's a terminology.
Director? Commissioner? Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
You want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and that's yes, the premise or the driving force behind having the CRCA, as it's called, is to spur hotel development. Obviously, that if you were to grade to offer a grade on that, it was not from that aspect very successful. I mean, and that's being quite frank. Now, whose responsibility was it to?
Well, it's not that people haven't tried, though.
Yeah, well,
right?
people have tried.
Yeah.
People have tried.
But for
Yeah,
whatever-
and that's correct. People have tried. No doubt about it. But the effort, to spur and generate that, fell a little short. Let's put it that way.
Robin Bay, Golden Gaming. I think there was an Anna Lee at one point. They were looking at doing something down there as well.
Yes, and I think that is somewhat still alive.
Okay.
With the we had a visit one fairly recently from one of the interested parties.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, Carambola wasn't. We didn't modify the law to allow for gaming to exist at Carambola.
I'm not sure,
Nor am I.
but I know that there's a provision in there for if the government was to own, and this is probably what you're talking about, for the government, if the government owns or is part owner of a casino, there's certain provisions there. Yes, but
Okay, good. Now,
yeah.
there was a moratorium to let me ask you this question. When are you get a call from the governor and the governor said, something, I'm looking at placing you on the Casino Control Commission. Are you due diligence, whole heap of research and all that stuff before you went before the legislature so that when they ask you all these questions, you're as knowledgeable as you can be? Because nobody knows everything.
Nobody knows everything, but you ask some deep questions, Mr. Neville James. But yes, I did do my.
The name of the show is Analyze This.
Yes.
It's a high
bar.
It's a high bar in the show. Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. To understand what the Virgin Islands Casino Resort Act required, what being on the commission would require of me to understand what my responsibilities would be.
As a matter of fact, something since we went there, tell the people your background.
My background, Virgin Islander, born and raised.
High school or private school child like me?
All Saints.
That's what
All
I'm
Saints
talking about.
Cathedral
That's what I'm
School.
talking about. Say nonsense, Papa.
A Viking and my
Episcopalian
yes,
child. That's what I'm talking about.
Me too.
Yeah.
Went to Georgetown University.
Oh yeah, you're
Yes.
Hoya? Okay, that's nice.
I'm a Hoya.
Yes,
I'm
what
a
I'm talking
Hoya.
about, yeah.
A degree in American government. Came back, worked at the Virgin Islands Legislature for 9 years.
Okay.
In that time period, I attended UVI, so I'm also a Buccaneer. I got a master's in public administration. I then left after graduation from UVI in 1995. I went to Case Western
Okay.
Reserve Law School, so I'm a Spartan.
That's Ohio, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
I received a law degree, came back, passed the Virgin Islands Bar, practiced for about 23 years, and then was elevated to the Superior Court as a magistrate judge.
That's what I'm talking
And I
about.
did that for 8 years.
So you welcome him. You they gotta work out for them. You know what I mean? When they come in after you, I like that. Your resume.
And what
I
a
love it.
tremendous asset she is to the commission.
That's what I'm talking about.
tell you
No.
the truth,
Thank
you
you,
know.
Chair.
Yes.
So wait now. You live in St. Thomas.
I do. I'm the St. Thomas St. John Commissioner.
Okay, good. You from St. Thomas, Mr. Pickering?
Yes, I am.
You live on St. Croix, though.
I live on St. Croix. I have deep roots on St. Croix. So
That's what I'm
as
talking
you
about.
know.
So, high school child over there in St. Thomas?
Charlotte Amalia.
You got chicken heart?
Chicken heart.
Chicken heart. and I know a little bit about you. Baltimore? You got some roots in Baltimore? Educational roots?
Yes. You know, I did Morgan. I did community college of Baltimore. I had a long circuitous route to get educated. We share similar stories.
Yeah.
So,
Without doubt.
but that's how it goes. But yes, and
Came back home when?
75.
75.
Yeah, thereabouts. You mentioned when the governor called. Yes, I remember specifically when he called. I was in Kmart. He answered the phone. He said, "You harder to get to than President Trump." You know, at the time, But yes, I didn't. As you said, he asked a question. Are you interested? Yes, but I can't give you an answer. At this point, I need to know what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me about a month before I said yes. But the preparation was intense, quite frankly. The background check and all the stuff that you have to go through to be a member of the commission.
And it should be that way.
And it should be that way. That's the way it was designed.
Yeah. When they passed the law, they made sure that they put in those checks to protect the integrity of the process.
The integrity of
process,
the industry.
and the process and the industry.
Right.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So really good. So getting back to where we at, our understanding, right, was that there was a moratorium with respect to casino development for the territory, and potential casino development would take place in the district of St. Thomas and St. John. In late 2002, in a lame duck session, VLTs were approved by the legislature, and that currently is the gaming that exists by law in St. Thomas and St. John, right? Everything we're going to talk about today is within the confines of the law.
Important point.
That go, Judge?
By law.
By
law. Yes, by law.
By law, right? So, but it's been a long time, and we're fooling ourselves into thinking that gaming, as perceived in 1995, does not exist in the St. Thomas St. John district right now, because it does.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Just two different platforms, right? There's a distinction, right, between casino gaming, which is the slots type approach, and a centralized approach with VLTs in St. Thomas, right? Mm-hmm. So the question is, and this is just a general question because I want to save the next segment for the problem gambling and all that stuff. Will there be a day where we have uniform gaming throughout the Virgin Islands? Mr. Chairman, and then Madam Vice Chair.
We get asked that question, quite a bit, and more and more frequently.
Because we're only 40 miles away from each other.
We're only 40 miles away, but there sides to the argument as to maintain the separation, and there's argument to put everything under one roof, as most jurisdictions currently have. But my approach or my thoughts in the past would be, do we just do it, or should there be some sort of study, some sort of analysis to examine the pros and the cons of doing such a move? But it is beginning to make some sense, to have to have most, if not all, gaming, under the auspices of one, one commission, one
gaming
agency,
entity. Yeah.
one gaming entity. But it needs some study. I would think that's been my position.
Madam Vice Chair, as a judge with the law degree and all that good stuff, training, the ability to see things that roadside lawyers like myself can't see. When you look at it through that lens, through that prism, uniformity in principle is a good thing, isn't it? In principle, removing the gaming thing we're talking about.
As a lawyer,
Yeah.
and with the training and the education, a lawyer does not go definitive yes or no.
Yeah, but I'm talking about for jurisdiction, though.
But jurisdiction, I think in this instance, because the public cannot see the distinction between a slot machine and a video lottery terminal, right? People go, how do you mean that no casinos in St. Thomas? What are, operating? But then you say those are gaming centers, and St. Croix has casinos. St. Croix has slot machines. St. Thomas, St. John District has the video lottery terminals. And a court case has said those two type of machines are different in the operation of it.
Yeah.
But it could be just for uniformity, to central, to make things easy, or because you have then different regulations covering different how gaming is done. It may be, like the chair said, something that needs to be studied and maybe just put together under one, because and then we're going into internet gaming.
Let me give you.
But before we get it right, the term that I remember that the judge used in 2020 was functional equivalent.
Functional,
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
That was the term that was used, right?
Yes.
Then that was Judge Gomez, right? That was April 2020
it
ruling.
was a district court
right?
case.
The district court case, right? And we head into a break. We've had numerous jurisdictions who've had this discussion, have had cases. There was even a reference with Pataki versus Dalton or something up in New York. So what we're dealing with here isn't unique to us, right? This is the discussion that has taken place in many jurisdictions under the American flag, and I just wanted to get just a general, a foundational idea of what we're dealing with, because there's regulation, and then there's a question about not as much regulation, if any regulation at all.
Yes.
When you're comparing VLTs to casino, we got Ms. Carolyn Hermon Purcell joining us here, Vice Chair for the Casino Control Commission, and the Chairman, Mr. Marvin Pickering. We'll be back right after this. back here and analyze this, and we've got the Casino Control Commission represented here in the studio. We got the CEO and Chairman, Mr. Marvin Pickering, and we've got the Vice Chair, Commissioner Carolyn Hermon Purcell. Good morning to both of you. I'm glad to have you here in the studio. Mr. Chair, you wanted to mention something as an example with respect to the need, what the need, but the benefit of a gaming commission or one entity where we could put everything on. Like it also includes when we did the research for that, whole heap of things, bingo, lottery ticket, the whole works. So speak about or educate the public.
Yeah, well, here's a real life example. So we have casino gaming related entities that would service the slot machines, here on St. Croix. In order for those entities to touch those machines, they must be licensed by the Casino Control Commission. Now, these same entities, who also would service VLTs in St. Thomas, they don't have to be licensed.
Major distinction.
Major.
Yeah.
Major distinction.
Yeah.
So, that would lend itself to the argument that there should be, as the term that you used earlier, there should be some uniformity, right? And this actually happens.
As a matter of fact, I remember in this high-profile case with Southland Gaming versus the agreement that we agreed to with VIGL to allow for casinos at the racetrack in St. Thomas, there was an entity, international something, that actually does the certifying of machines. And they were actually asked to give an opinion, or the Casino Control Commission was asked to give an opinion. Oliver David, that's his name?
That's he's a director of DGE, not directly.
You want to give the acronym? What's
Division of Gaming Enforcement.
Okay,
and they are under the Department of Justice.
Okay.
They are the investigatory arm of the commission.
Isn't that a good thing? And it speaks to when they enacted the legislation that they put that check in place from a regulatory standpoint, that we have the Justice Department. He's an employee of the Justice Department, not the Casino Control Commission.
Right.
That's correct.
He's
Justice
an assistant attorney general.
Assistant Attorney General. You know what I'm saying? So the checks and balances aspect, I think we did a great job back in the day. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? To make sure that we, keep things, or not give the impression that we just want to allow for gaming to take place and we ain't got the protections. Right? So that's a good thing.
Of course, the basis for our laws, came from New Jersey.
New Jersey. Correct. And there was also a taxation issue as well.
Exactly.
So how we apply that. But let me talk problem gambling awareness, because this is Problem Gambling Awareness Month.
Well, let me jump in. We have Problem Gaming Awareness, which is in March, and we have Responsible Gaming Education Month in September.
Oh, that's what this is now.
This is responsible gaming.
Okay, hold on. Let me write that down. Responsible
Gaming Education Month.
Responsible Gaming Education Month. So the problem month is March.
It's March, yes.
Yeah,
If you put it that way.
gaming will not get us to be
a
a problem.
March is my birthday month. So it look like this is personal. You know what I'm saying? So I got a problem with that. You know what I mean? So you said Responsible Gaming
Education Month.
Education Month. Right?
And that is the brainchild
And
of
problem gaming, not gambling. Problem gaming.
Problem gambling.
Problem gambling, right?
Right.
Awareness Month in March.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I have no control over it. It was what it was. You know what I'm saying? So now, what is responsible gaming education?
Responsible Gaming Education Month is a product, if you will, of the American Gaming Association, which is the industry arm of the gaming the arm of the gaming industry, and this is the 25th year that they're recognizing responsible gaming, as a way to educate, educate the patrons, not only the patrons, but the casino operators and everyone that's involved in the gaming industry, that gaming is supposed to be gaming, gambling is supposed to be entertainment. Whereas we know there's some that that may have some issues with gaming and how they control themselves. So the industry decided that this could be problematic, and it is problematic in some areas. So to protect the industry, they decided to allocate or dedicate this month to bring awareness to the industry that there could be problems.
And Madam Vice Chair, responsible gaming education, how is the Casino Control Commission executing that mandate, for lack of a better term?
Okay, well, the Casino Control Commission, with responsible gaming, right, is geared to avoid problem gambling. So is to, we advocate to have a game plan, to bet responsibly, to set a budget, to keep it social, to know the odds, and to play legally. Those are the tenets of responsible gaming. The Casino Control Commission is involved in responsible gaming. First of all, we always send out to our stakeholders in industry the reminder that September is Responsible Gaming Education Month. This month, we soft launch our website, playwisevi.org, which is where the Casino Control Commission, in its mission, stated mission on the website, is committed to raising our community's awareness about problem gambling by promoting responsible gaming and informing of the free, confidential, and other resources available to those experiencing gambling disorders and seeking help. So while we had the soft launch of our website, we're gonna fine tune it. We're gonna come out with ads so persons, the community is aware of this website. This is one of our commitment to that 1% that's allotted for problem gaming initiatives and programs to the commission. We also have, we're working with the Department of Health, and we think we're in the final stages of a memorandum of understanding that will have the Casino Control Commission provide the funding to behavioral health division, for them to have counselors trained in problem gambling, but that will be available locally in both districts, in Thomas St. John and St. Croix. As we know, in talking, it's always easier to talk to a person who talks like you, understands where you're coming from. And so while there's 1-800 numbers, that's currently what we use. The aim of the commission is to make sure there are resources available locally, counselors who we can say, here, you've come in, you filed for voluntary self-exclusion from the casino. That's one of the tools the commission has for persons who say, come into the commission and say, I have a problem with gambling, put me on this list. So to provide for a period of time, I'm not allowed to go in. I should not be allowed to go into the casinos to gamble. And we can then say, go and seek this type of help.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we've made tremendous strides in that area. And we also try to involve, we don't try to involve our industry partners, the casinos, licensees. We've extended invitations not just to them, but to the lottery and to Southland and to all those entities that are involved in gaming. And to their credit, they have been participating. We have the commission provides giveaways, for the patrons and for the casino operators, to distribute to their patrons. And one casino, has been so involved that they have gaming and I use that term kind of loosely, but opportunities for people to become aware of there might be that a patient might have an issue and how to address it. So as the vice chair mentioned, we have 800 numbers. We provide that information, but we want to take it a step further. And as she mentioned, we are working with Department of Health and another partner in trying to get counselors, gambling addiction counselors, trained up, so that we provide this service not just on St. Croix, but territory wide.
Well, let me talk about awareness, man. Since I went there, right? You know what's the best awareness? When you reach in your pocket that you don't got no more money, man. That's the best awareness.
Yeah,
right?
but that point might be too late
too
because
late.
you didn't pay the rents and you didn't pay the tuition.
I comment to that. I give you real life experience right here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I remember, right, after Hurricane Hugo, this is 89. Used to go to a gamble shop in Christiansted Town, right? I was 25 years old at the time. I could say it now. I'm 60, so nobody can do me nothing. You know what I'm saying, right? And I went in there. Them used to play dice in there, because gaming is all kind of thing, right? They got regulated gaming, and then they got the other kind of gambling, right?
Right.
Dice card, the works, right? I finally play my first dice game in St. Croix. I make the mistake and win. That's one of the that's how it starts. A lot of people don't know that. So you win on day one, and it's a mental thing. Now you believe I gonna win every day, right? So this is the education. Since we're talking education, let me just let the public know what's going on.
Yes, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And I end up in there for about 10 years. Off and on. No, I'm telling you the truth. I mean, I'm a horse player, right? I like horse racing. Obviously, my dad and all that stuff, right? We had a stable in the States, all that stuff. But I'm just being candid here. So, the deal is this, right? You get hooked, addicted, whatever word you want to use. Sometimes you win. More often than not, you lose. Just being candid. Some people get lucky and win a whole heap of money the first time, and they can afford to lose for a long, long time and all that stuff. But you really need, when you're talking education, right, there's also a management component that's involved in this, right? Because you're using what you would hope is disposable income, but in reality, it's not disposable income. It's money to pay bills. The next thing you know, you're falling behind, which means you're going to borrow from people. You get yourself in further debt. And before you know it, you got your issues that you're dealing with. No, I got 35 years. I'm looking back and all that stuff, right? I remember when so 15 years later, because I've never really been big on casino gaming. 15 years later, I run for office. I win. I tell them, mind the gamble shop, well, I can't come back no more. Right? So the man get vexed. Oh, God, you think you're bigger than we know? And I said, no, I'm an elected official. Right? you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But what the point that I'm making is that it's a vice, right? And you really need to study this thing. There's a science involved in this thing. And it's not only science, there's a human dynamic that everybody ain't the same. You know what I'm saying? When with VLTs in St. Thomas, and this is an IO above you, I hear this from a lot of people. I just went down there to have a good time. And before I know it, same thing with the casino. Before I know it, I was down 200. You check?
Yeah.
So I'm sure this is part of the education thing that y'all are talking about there.
It is. Yeah. It is. And you have to make people aware of the pitfalls and the harm that
the negative potentials.
Yes. And that's I was, and you were speaking there about the harm. I was at a conference a couple of years ago in New York. One of the panelists, at this conference was, you and I as sports people, Charles Oakley.
Yeah, man.
And he was speaking about how it is in the sports world, right? And he played in the NBA. He played with the Bulls,
Bulls,
the
Knicks, yeah,
and,
Toronto, all them teams,
and,
yeah.
and all those teams. And how it is throughout the sporting world. On that same panel was a young man who said that he got hooked gambling when he was 12 years old. On that same panel was a couple from Ireland, I think, where the husband was so into to gambling that he stole from his employers, and he was sent to prison. So there is this potential for harm, and not just the person that's gambling, but it involves the family as well. It could affect them, in the most negative of ways.
Yeah.
So
By the way, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to, the Casino Control Commission wants to make clear. Gambling and gaming, we know it's entertainment. It is the problem becomes when it moves from entertainment to addiction and something else. Because I'm going to take words from the chair. We want people to gamble. We want people to go into and enjoy the casinos because
Responsibly.
Responsibly.
That's a key word.
That is a key word because we know it then has benefits to the community in the tax revenues generated and how it filters Department of Education, Department of Health, other entities are assisted through those revenues, but it has to be responsibly.
We're talking with the Casino Control Commission Chair and Vice Chair Marvin Pickering and Carolyn Hermon Purcell, respectively. It is Responsible Gaming Education Month. That's designated for September, and then Problem Gambling Awareness Month,
Which is in March.
Is a March deal. We'll take a break, come back, talk some more about the Casino Control Commission and do they have any events or whatever coming up that they sponsor and all that stuff to keep awareness at the appropriate levels here in the Virgin Islands. Be back right after this. And we're back here. I analyze this, and we've got the Casino Control Commission in the house. Chairman Pickering, Vice Chair Hermon Purcell. Good morning to both of you, distinguished Virgin Islanders.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And analyze this. Any events associated with the Casino Control Commission coming up, or anything that you all do throughout the year to get people to have a greater understanding? Open house, anything like that? I know I think it's tight knit because there's a lot of information there that you don't want what the public should not be access to for obvious reasons. We're talking gaming, people's personal stuff, what have you. But there's anything that y'all do to keep awareness at optimum levels?
Well, the one thing that the public will notice is, whenever we do any advertising or sponsorship, we always have our message about, and we've changed the tagline. What's the new tagline?
Know your limits, bet
Bet
responsibly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the one thing that we would like the listening audience, the public, to take away, from this discussion, is that if a patron is experiencing, problem with gaming, one thing we want them to know is that that help is available. Help is available. We have the 800 number. That's the 1-800-GAMBLER chat.
1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER,
Right.
which is translated 426-2527.
426-2527.
1-800-426-2527. You can call that number. They have 1-800-GAMBLERchat.org if you want to chat. And if you want to text, is 1-800-GAM.
Yes, and we have certain tools available to people that might be experiencing a problem. The vice chair mentioned earlier that we have a voluntary self-exclusion program or process at the commission, where a patron experiencing those kinds of problems could come in and request to be placed on the self-exclusion list that they for, and that would be for a period of 6 months, a minimum of 6 months.
Mandatory minimum of 6 months.
6 months, correct. And that would give them that time to reassess or assess and reassess the issues, a cooling off period, so to speak. We want to encourage the people that in fact participate in gaming, that it is for entertainment, play, for fun, and make sure that the gaming does not affect your work or your family. It place limits. I can't game in the Virgin Islands, but when I do go away and I go to a casino, I said I have my limits. And when I reach there, when I hit that limit, it is over, right? You have to have a budget, try not to be chasing the losses. That's you mentioned that earlier.
Compounding debt.
Yeah, compounding debt. That's right. And there's a time to establish time limits. And so that is our mandate. The Commissioner Hermon Purcell mentioned that mandate. We have a mandate in the law, right? There's a 1% allocation from the casino revenue fund. For the commission to have gambling addiction programs, to assist in this area.
Okay, good. Now, Madam Vice Chair, Gaming Laboratories International. You familiar with that entity?
GLI.
GLI.
I am.
They do what? I know the answer, but for the audience, they do what?
They come in. They can certify machines. They do that kind of inspections. They're premier in the industry certification machines. They can do background checks. There's involved in all aspects of the gaming and gambling industry.
And they have designations for certain type of machines and all that stuff, right?
Yes, they do.
You familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know they're very important for DGE, the Division of Gaming Enforcement, for their work.
Well, I
and
have a letter here.
certification.
I have a letter here from May of 2020. You joined the commission when?
22.
22.
Yes.
So you just reached. You're a baby, right? But Mr. Chair, you've been there since what? 19, 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah, November of 2020.
November 2020, right? And we had this high-profile case with Southland and VIGL, right? And of course, it was really never adjudicated. The government entered into agreement. It was approved by the legislature, I believe, in April of 2022. And once the government, for that development of the racetrack in Clinton Phipps in St. Thomas, and once the government entered into that arrangement, then Judge Malloy dismissed the case, right? Subsequent to that, you had hearings about issuing a license for VIGL for the Doc James racetrack here in St. Croix?
Yes.
And that was approved?
Yes, it was. It was approved in April
Of 24?
of 24.
This year.
This year, right?
Yes.
What's the condition for that license? How long is it, and what do they have to do to maintain that license going forward?
Well,
Generically speaking.
Commissioner Hermon Purcell was just at the legislature last Friday.
Yeah, that's why I'm going there, because we had a hearing. Everybody called me, Neville, your seat, and I said no, I didn't see it. I tired of going through the whole process and all that stuff. So the hearing went on, what have you. But I'm not into the hearing.
Right.
I'm into the role of the Casino Control Commission, which is as relates to gaming at the racetrack. That's our purview,
Yes.
right? Not conducting horse race and all that stuff.
Correct.
Which is the prerequisite to get the gaming license, right?
Well, yes, at the racetrack.
At the racetrack.
Yes,
right?
correct.
If there's gonna be any gaming
There must
taking
be horse
place
racing.
at the racetrack in St. Croix,
Yeah.
they must have a license to conduct horse racing.
Right.
That's correct.
They
That's
needed
the
they
prerequisite,
needed a
right?
franchise
Yes.
and all
A
of
franchise
that.
agreement,
Yes, they
right?
needed
Okay.
that.
Okay, good. So I just want the public to know that's how we work. Are you ain't got nothing to do with horse racing at the Doc James racetrack?
No.
Are you there into gaming,
Absolutely.
right?
So
At
we
the
issued,
racetrack?
we issued the license, back in
Initial
April.
license.
The initial license, which is for 1 year, right?
That was the issue the public were asking. Why 1 year? And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a reason for that. Please,
well,
if you will.
Number one is the law.
That's it. That's
You
what the
know,
law says.
That's what the law says. And then there's
You cannot renew
renewal for
2 year. You can have 2-year renewals, and then after that it goes to 4 years.
Okay.
So
okay.
initial, you
So
can
that's-
only
so-
get 1 year.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
anything.
So ain't nothing that you create
No.
or you did
No.
for this particular entity.
It's-
The law says the original license must be a 1 year license.
Yes.
And what does any entity have to do to maintain levels to receive favorable conditions for an extension?
well, and you know, when you look at that, you know,
Because there's economics involved.
Well, you know, 1 year, right?
Yeah.
You give you we want this thing, and is in their wisdom, they wanted to get moving, right? So you have to show me something within that 1 year that you are serious.
Forward movement you're talking
That's
about.
right, forward movement.
Okay.
You know, as a matter of fact, there's a provision that within 6 months, you know, you have to show substantial movement or construction.
Substantial construction.
Right? Moving forward, and if you don't,
So they get the answer to you by October.
Yes.
Exactly.
October 19th.
Okay.
we got the date
have the
down.
date
We have the
now.
date down,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
October 19th. You know why is this thing? You know.
No.
Explain to us.
Where
Where are you?
Where
Where
are
are
you?
you?
Are you?
Where are you?
Right.
Right.
And if they start mumbling and I can't answer, then you got further questions to ask after that.
Absolutely.
Right?
You know, and then you know, they can apply, you know, for an extension. Is it 6 months?
A 6 months extension.
6 months. extension. Once they provide valid reasons as to why they can't.
Justification.
Justification.
Yeah,
for that.
if there isn't forward movement.
Exactly.
And of course, we could see with the naked eye that we haven't seen any forward movement down that the racetrack, but that's another discussion for down the road. So, and that, by the way, I want the public to know, that was pursuant to Racino legislation, right? Passed in 2010. This was not original Resort and Casino Control Act of 1995. This was legislation that we adopted in 2010 to allow for gaming at the racetrack, at both racetracks, right? And at the time we respected the different types of gaming that were taking place in the respective districts. Over here, slot machines, which is our purview, and in St. Thomas, VLTs, which is not under the purview of the Casino Control Commission.
That is
okay. Right. Now, what we did
that's the horse racing.
Correct.
Assistance
Improvement Act of 2010, and then we amended it in 2011. 2011. Right. That's some language there, and then in 2016, we what we did was we rezoned Clinton Phipps Racetrack to allow for the Casino Control Commission to have purview over any gaming that would take place at the Clinton Phipps Racetrack. Act 79, 75, 93, and 79, 94, which was to a zoning change and the franchise agreement approval between VIGL and the government of the Virgin Islands, which has subsequently been amended, what have you. Okay. And apparently they have separated St. Thomas Clinton Phipps from Doc J's Racetrack on St. Croix, right?
You're correct.
Thank you. No, this is analyze this or no? this is analyze this. Or I go do my homework.
You got to do your homework.
That's why during the break I went and I find the letter from Swaziland McGowan from Gaming Laboratories International. This was a letter. The case was a high-profile case, 2020, and I thought it was important that the public know that they did reach out to Oliver David to ask him, and he reached out to GLI, and GLI responded. And I want to let the public know what we were talking about earlier, right? They say a gaming device utilizes an element of chance and or skill in the determination of prizes, contains some form of activation to initiate the wagering process, and makes use of a suitable methodology to delivery of determined outcome. I widen this here, right? They said, in contrast, video lottery terminals, as defined in GLI 23, utilize randomness in determination. So there's that's the distinction that they use. You check what I'm saying? More science versus more randomness. I mean, it ain't absolute.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Correct.
And I think the public needs to know that. So,
and speaking of GLI, they have instituted standards that is used that are used throughout the gaming industry. I had an opportunity to visit their lab in Las Vegas a few months ago. Quite an interesting visit. Where they break down these slot machines, get into the memory, to the whatever of the machines, and you look at that RNG, the random number generator stuff, and it's quite an interesting.
And they had a term they had used back in the day, CLODs, closed loop operating devices and all that stuff, which is a type of internet type of thing, a computer type thing,
right?
And that's what Davey was dealing with and all that. So, do we see finally got a couple of minutes? We see any more gaming potential in the Virgin Islands outside of what we have now, and hopefully the racetrack?
Yes, the gaming industry, has changed. As you alluded to earlier, over the years, it's not what was envisioned in 1995.
That next year making 30 years. I mean, see, sorry, I go call
us. But we're gonna celebrate the 30 years. That's our plan.
That's our plan. That's our plan.
And next year will also be 25 years for Divi. March
correct.
2000.
Correct. So we are looking at the Internet Gaming and Gambling Act, You know, we have made some progress in that review. We've had those statutes reviewed by GLI. It's the same GLI. You know,
gaming laboratory international.
Right, that's correct. You know, and we had our legal counsel review their recommendations for amendments to the statutes. You know, we're in the process of conducting a study, to determine the revenue potential, among other things, of internet gaming and gambling. You know, that sports betting is, as you know, we see it all over. It is huge and generate tremendous revenues for various jurisdictions. So that's our plan. In looking forward, and again in maintaining what we currently have.
I want to thank both of you for making some time to join us. It is Responsible Gaming Education Month.
That is correct.
Here in the Virgin Islands, and nationwide, right?
Yes, nationwide.
Do we have a date in March for Problem Gambling Awareness Month? Vice Chair Hermon Purcell and Mr. Chairman.
It's the entire month. We dedicate the entire.
No, a date here to come visit me back.
Yes, we do.
Oh yes, and then 30 years of the Casino Resort Control Act of 1985. We asking for invitation to come back.
Without a doubt.
We're gonna celebrate that.
You're good.
Milestone.
Thank you very much.
That milestone.
Thank you very much. Be good and be safe.
Thank you so much for having us.
You got it. Talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
Is underwritten in part by